Welcome back to Curious Comedy, a podcast made to inform and entertain, to enjoy and wreck your brain. Oh, and our name? Well, I'm Jala.
I'm Tom.
And this is Curious Comedy. After a longer break than expected, due to some corrupt files, we are back. And as with most things, we hope you can appreciate us even more now that you have been without us for so long. Despite this little hiccup, we are still hoping to enlighten you. And without further ado, let's get into it. So Tom, what do you have for us?
Well, after such a lovely introduction, I am set up for failure. But today we have a man of such high regard that he will spark controversy no matter what. And I am personally a big fan of the man, so I'm very excited to talk a little bit about him. Now, this episode is going to dive into Jordan Bernd Peterson a little bit. And I'm going to quickly talk a little bit about who he is, what does he do, and then we're going to talk a little bit about a few things surrounding him and a few things that he has said and some questions. But first, who is he and what does he do? First and foremost, he is a clinical psychologist and a professor of psychology who has studied at and taught at multiple high regarded universities such as Yale and Harvard and many more. This is where originally his first content came from, in which he videotaped his lectures and put them online on YouTube, which started amassing more and more views over the year, and some of them now have tons and tons of views, but didn't start like this. Really what got the ball rolling for him is a certain issue which started on a campus in Canada, which is where he's originally from. And there was this bill introduced called Bill C-16, and this was a compelled speech bill. And what this basically was meant to introduce was to create laws that will protect transgender people, in a sense that if a transgender person identified with a certain pronoun, then by law other people would be forced to call them by that pronoun. Now, on first glance, you might see this as a good thing, as a step in the right direction, but there are some problems with this, mainly that it is forcing you to say a certain thing in a way that is compelling your speech, which is what his main problem with the legislation was. And after hearing him talk about it, I'm sure you can at least see his point. Now, there was a bit of outrage against this. As you can imagine, a lot of people called him transphobic, and he got thrown a bunch of terrible words like Nazi and shill, which is, he made a joke of it as well, that the Nazi and the shill were basically the furthest things apart, and being called both of them really showed that the people that were out for him didn't really know what they were trying to get him for. They were just trying to get him, which I still think is one of his funniest things that he's ever said. This created a big following, and people started to learn about him. Now, then there's the reason that I really got interested in him, because I followed all this a few years ago when I first came across him, but it wasn't really all that interesting to me. I thought it was just a professor that was well spoken, speaking out about something that was bothering him, but I didn't think it was too big of an issue at the time. But then years later, I came across him again, and I saw some of his lectures, some of the things that he was saying, and they really spoke to me. And I came to find out that he has a lot of free content and educational content online, and I started following some of that, some of the more popular lectures, and I started to slowly fall in love with the things he was saying and the almost ideology and philosophy that he was able to teach people. And then he also made a lecture series called the Biblical Series, in which he pragmatically dissects some of the first Bible stories in a really beautiful manner, and I can really recommend that to anyone that is curious about faith in any sense, whether it be spirituality, Christianity, or anything of the sort. It really, no matter what, I can guarantee that you will get something out of it. That I will put my life on. Now, then he got more and more internet notoriety, and this was made this was exacerbated by the fact that he went on a TV show in Britain and had a discussion with a host called Kathy Newman, and this is, I think, one of the things that he's most known for of all time, in which there was a lot of questions directed towards him, which were ranged from quite direct and harsh to trying to misinterpret what he was saying, or trying to bend him in a certain way to make him look like the villain in a story, and that at a certain point he was able to use the host or the interviewer's questions against her, and this, as you can imagine, really made him a hero to a lot of people, because he was fighting back against that woke left agenda that a lot of people were getting annoyed by, you could say. Then some of the things that he really preaches and that he talks a lot about that really have some special meaning to me are the clean your room meme, which has basically been originated from him. One of the things he always tells people, if you're trying to get your life together, you're trying to make something out of yourself, if you say I want to change the world, how about you clean your room first? If you think you have a plan to make the entire world a better place, perhaps you should be able to make your own room a good place, and then you can talk about having an impact somewhere else. So it's like start small, start at the individual level, and then build outwards, which I thought was a really a bottom-up approach that I can really agree with, and I can get the insight. And another thing is that he is an avid believer in always speaking the truth carefully, but to be truthful at all times. And this also means to speak out if things are bothering you, and that you have a moral obligation to do so, an ethical and moral obligation to speak out when you're faced with something that you disagree with, and that in fact it will set you on a kind of adventure, and that responsibility is something to find meaning in life. And these are ideas that seem interesting at first glance, but especially when you heard him talk about it, for me especially, they really carried a lot of meaning that I hadn't found with some other people that were big influences in my life philosophically as well. So that's why I got really interested in him. And then of course his book that came out, 12 Rules of Life, also talks about these things, and it was a bestseller very quickly, so a lot of people started learning about him, but despite all the good things that I'm mentioning about him right now, there's also a lot of controversy surrounding him. And as I said, the backlash that he got from being called transphobic and going against Bill C-16, he's also had a few cancellations on Twitter and YouTube, and for speaking out and saying some things that could be perceived as quite ugly or negative or hateful, perhaps even to some people. So we want to talk about that a little bit and see how we feel about it, and what any insights that we might give, and hopefully the people listening that are interested can tell us a little bit about what they feel about him as well, and how they have experienced it, because I'd love to know. Firstly, Jada. He got cancelled quite a lot of times on Twitter and on YouTube, and we talked about this previously a little bit in an Andrew Tate discussion, where we talked about the necessity to have people be able to speak their mind on these platforms. How do you feel about this issue regarding Jordan Peterson having been cancelled multiple times? Do you think it was fair in some sense? Do you think, what is your general stance on the matter?
On GP being cancelled, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for the introduction. I think we have now kind of an idea what the man did. And to be honest, when you were talking, I was, because like we said in the intro, we already did this podcast a couple of times.
This is the third time.
But due to a corrupt file, and normally we would say we have so many subjects, we just go to the next one. But this one is kind of interesting, and you're also passionate about it. And I think, indeed, the question you just posed is, I think, almost a central theme in cancellation, right? So it's a general thing of, cancellation in essence is just saying, you cannot participate anymore in this debate, which in a context of free speech is just super strange. And that would be my default explanation, and therefore my reasoning would be the same and conclusion as well as the reasoning I gave with the date. It doesn't matter if you think he's right or not, or that you think that he's broadcasting hate or is learning people. It really doesn't matter. You know that the moment you cancel somebody or you say you cannot participate anymore in this debate on this platform, you know that the person in this case will find a new platform with people having an even more extreme thought following him.
Yeah.
And so the likelihood of getting into a bubble where only like-minded statements and arguments are given is becoming higher, and so the likelihood of not being able to see an argument from a different perspective decreases. And so in general I would say cancellation is therefore in any case for everybody always bad. Right? Or
you
have a different opinion?
No, I don't. But I'm tempted to go into a little side path because I just came to a small revelation, in a sense, if you don't mind. And I would say, and I think you probably agree with this, that social media companies have a responsibility to put free speech as the forefront of whatever they do, as a core tenet, right? I think you agree with that. But when we talked about Twitter in an earlier episode and the ideas that Musk had to make people be able to experience the app in such a sense that you would only interact with people that you could have a discussion with, and certain people would be taken out of your vision, you could say, wouldn't that go against that?
And how so?
Because it's going against the free speech that every voice is equal in a sense. Because you're eliminating people's voices in a sense, because you're almost walling them off or putting them in a bubble. Yeah, but or maybe I don't understand your point, but that is the reason why cancellation is bad, right? Or is it something different you're trying to say? Maybe can you explain it again? No, so I think we're on the same page when it comes to cancellation and the fact that it's almost inexcusable unless somebody really crosses a very clear line. Like, for example, let's take Kanye. I think we can all say, okay, Kanye went too far at certain points. We can understand that there perhaps was a cancellation. No, I don't agree. So you don't agree? No, so I agree that indeed what you're describing, that he was, I think, most definitely looking what the limits were of his free speech. That is something I think is a fair statement, but doesn't mean that when you are looking for the boundaries that a cancellation is justified. And that is my point. I think a cancellation is never justified, even not in the Kanye case. Yeah, you would say so? Yeah, I would say so. Because otherwise, I believe, but I think that is a fundamental question. And I think I would bring it back to that, we are inconsistent in the way we say you can have an opinion. I mean, I was born, and we were born, here in the Netherlands at least, with the idea that you can have free speech. Okay, but let's take the case of GP. Yeah. I'm definitely not that literate about all the things that he has done, but I saw an article in which he lost his fellowship at a university because the rector told him that he was standing next to a person who was wearing a t-shirt with like the slogan, "I am proud to be a Islamophobe." And I think that is a clear example of something which is inconsistent with free speech. If you believe that having free speech is super important, that means that you are free to say whatever you want. That also means that you can say that you are a proud Islamophobe. And the fact that a university, which in essence
stemming from the learnings of a Socrates and a Plato, was that knowledge should be the only and the highest virtue of a university. That means that a university should be a leader. The fact that a university is saying no, we limit the free speech of the people that are studying or working at our university even more than what the society wants us to do, showcases, I think at least, that you are at a point in which there is no such thing as free speech. You have free speech given that you do not disturb the wrong people, disturb the wrong religion, disturb the wrong country. Then you don't have free speech. That is the same that you say in the Netherlands we have free speech, but if you curse at the king, then you end in jail. Then everyone would say then you don't have free speech. And so I think that is my whole problem, that even without having the discussion, is a cancellation justified on its own? You can just say, okay, before that, we take the next step, just on the basis, is it not the case that we are super inconsistent? We do not even know what we ourselves want. Do we want people to have free speech? We say so, but when everyone is forming an opinion on social media, then we say, how can we let every idiot on this planet have an opinion? What do you want?
No, I think fair enough, right? You make a valid point, especially when talking about the university. I think that's incredibly valid. However, it's hard because I do agree with the fact that we should at least have the boundaries to where free speech can take you to the max limit. But there are laws in place, for example, that say that you cannot talk about assassinating the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, right? And those laws exist. Okay, perhaps let me ask you this question then. Do you think those laws should be in place?
But let's compare then two cases. One is then bad and the other isn't, in my opinion then. So both are, let's say, a text. Let's say you write it down. So I'm going to assassinate the Prime Minister and whatever your text is, which is allowed. The difference is with Kanye that he is ventilating, or whatever it is, he's broadcasting his opinion about, I think the Jew example was that there are a lot of people in high positions in America are Jews. That is his opinion or his choice to broadcast.
I get you, but here's an important distinction, because I don't think I know you don't spend a lot of time on Twitter, so I'm going to let you in on a little thing that he said. If this was all he said, I would have been on your side. Exact quote: I'm going to go DEFCON 3 on these Jews.
That makes things a little bit different.
Right.
Of course. Because that would be indeed the distinction between that is the argument I was trying to give, is that when you form an opinion and trying to broadcast that, that is, you can distinct that from preventing let's say dangerous things, and that's the reason why those laws are in place. And so you should have them in place, because then when I say I'm going to assassinate the US government or whatever, or president, whatever it is, the point is that if you look at that text, what is dominant? Ventilating my opinion? No, the main message is that I'm going to kill somebody. On the basis of that is not your opinion, that is not something you think, that is saying that you are planning to do something. Of course you should act on that.
Exactly.
And sure, of course, but that is different than having an opinion, because having an opinion isn't doing something, and that is right. And I think those laws are in place to make sure that you don't do the wrong things. I mean, to take it in the extreme, pedophilia is, I think, almost everywhere, luckily, forbidden. But if we would zoom in on that, thinking about having sex with children, that is not something you can, right? No. That is still allowed. But the laws are in place that the moment you do not have that opinion, do not have that preference, but you act on that preference, then it becomes illegal. And there you see, and I think that's fair, because people can have, in this case, I mean, this is sick behavior, of course, but people can have really strange reasonings, really strange arguments, for example, be extremely, be an extreme racist, but then through life, through experience, through learning, can adjust those, let's say, opinions. And the moment you exclude somebody from the debate or exclude them from society, like a prison does, what does a prison? A prison does not make sure that the person who is having his punishment is improving himself. No, what is happening is that he is surrounded by people who are also criminals, and so prison is a school for criminals. And so the moment you are free to leave prison, you are at least a more experienced criminal than you were when you entered the prison. And there, that showcases that excluding somebody will not improve the behavior. Because he will be surrounded by like-minded people that will think that it is all normal.
Yeah, exactly.
While the people with like
a feedback chamber.
The feedback chamber, and the people who will give you the most valuable feedback do not want to have anything to do with you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you will never see them because they are constantly productive, helping other people. You are stealing, whatever. It's such a
It actually, especially the last sentence, really reminds me of something Jordan Peterson said, because he was talking a bit about, you can call it like the extreme liberals in America, right? The women that if you ask them a question, will scream in your face, parade, every type of color in their hair, really just people that are beyond reasoning. They are so insistent and indoctrinated with the idea that men are the problem of society and the patriarchy must come down, that is imbued in their brain almost, right? You get the picture that I'm painting. He said, I've talked to a few very successful women, and I almost would say that women would have to tell their sisters, in a sense, that you need to cut that stuff out, right? You need to take responsibility for each other. And I think women will listen to women more than men, especially women that have decided that killing all men would be a benefit for society, right? Because that's how far it goes. And he says, the main answer I get is, those women don't want anything to do with those women, because they're working on their family, on their career, on their business. They're making something of themselves in life, and they don't want to mess around with that whole mess. They want to stay as far away from it as possible, and it makes sense. And that's how these people indeed get to stay in their little chamber and get to keep repeating these ideas for eternity. So just wanted to put that out there, since we're on the topic of the man anyway.
But indeed, it's almost a negative feedback loop.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I wonder what would be a good solution, but I'm sad that I don't have it.
Now I think what research shows us, and that is not that I have read those research, but you can see in the Netherlands that we base our public spending decisions on research, and then you see that we in the Netherlands explicitly choose to make sure that you will not have neighborhoods with only like-minded people. So what will happen when migrants are entering the Netherlands, they will be distributed all over the place. It is not that the fact that you have Ter Apel, which is like a main thing, that is exceptional, and you can speak of something like that is exceptional, because that is the only thing we have in the Netherlands where only migrants are. That is because we don't want that. We don't want to separate people on the basis of...
We don't want to segregate.
Yeah, segregate, that's even a better word. Yeah, indeed. So I think our policies in the Netherlands showcases us that we already, or probably research suggests that it is indeed better to have this intermingling. And I mean, we are sitting here in my house. Maybe this is not smart. I will not do this. I was
looking at you with fearful eyes already.
No, never mind. Just leave this. You got my point.
Okay, I got your point. Okay. Okay, so what do you think it says about society that we tend to exclude Jordan Peterson from discussion?
That is a great question, Tom.
Thank you. It's a completely creative, original question that I just thought of.
Yeah, so I know that we just talked about it a little bit, but I think it's still worth mentioning the distinction between you have social media is making a decision to cancel one person or not, and as far as I can remember, for example, Donald Trump, when Twitter was not in Elon Musk's hands, Trump was cancelled from Twitter, but Trump wasn't cancelled from Instagram, I think. Or
not that I remember.
No, he was not. I think
I'll double check
from any. But my point is more that sometimes you have to make a distinction between being cancelled from a platform or being cancelled as a whole. And I think that what happened with GP is almost comparable to what happened to Andrew Tate, is that he is cancelled almost anywhere.
Yeah. Trump was banned from Facebook as well, and actually got his account back this January.
Okay, yeah. But there were examples, I think, in Kanye that was then, and it is, I mean, it is really easy. Look, if I say something crazy like Kanye did on Twitter, okay, now you can say now you're cancelled from Twitter, you're banned because you didn't hold yourself to the house rules. Fair enough, right? That is how it works. Now, does that mean that Facebook, Meta, is justified to now drop me or cancel me from Facebook? And that is something you should ask yourself, because the fact that I I didn't hold myself to the house rules of Twitter, because in this case maybe I ventilated some hate speech, then we know that on other social media platforms you can also not ventilate hate speech, right? So okay, then it's fair to say, okay, you're now banned from Twitter, so you will also be banned from Facebook. But you could imagine that there are some examples that the rules of Twitter and Facebook, let's say, are different from each other.
Sure.
And so then you cannot say that when I'm banned from Twitter, that then automatically Facebook will ban me too. And I think what happened with Andrew Tate, but the GP as well, is in some cases that being banned or cancelled from one platform led to a situation in which he was cancelled from anywhere. So GP was not only cancelled from Twitter, but also from maybe social media, but also from the university. And then you have almost a societal cancellation. And I think that is a big difference because when I am banned on a platform and it's fair, then that means that I did not hold myself to the house rules. That means that if I hold myself to the house rules, I'm allowed on the platform. But the moment that the society has cancelled you, you are done. There is no way back. There is no fair policy. And I think when you pose me that question, that would be where my head goes, that I would say and think almost, what does it say about us as a society? Yeah, a lot. It shows that we are, and that is an argument we just made, that we are inconsistent. But what is, I think, even more important in the case of the dangerous path that we are walking is that we are intolerant. And if you're inconsistent and intolerant, then I think problems will arise.
You become bigoted.
And I think they will escalate very quickly.
I think they have been.
Yeah, they have been, but sometimes you do not see it. But in the near future, it becomes almost an exception if you don't see it. I think that is super interesting, because we as a society, most of the times, and I think a lot of people can identify with this, that you were in a birthday party or having a discussion with friends, family. It really doesn't matter. And then someone is asking for your opinion about, let's say, a governmental issue about politics. Then, let's say 80% of people would say, yeah, that is not my area of expertise. So I cannot have an opinion about it. And I think that is the basis why these inconsistencies and the intolerance will only be greater in the near future, because we as citizens of a society don't take our responsibility in saying that we are so humble that we don't form an opinion. No, we take responsibility for the for our societal state in which we are right now. And ultimately the government makes decisions based on how we think about things. And so if we do not give our opinions, then the government cannot improve, policies cannot improve. And the fact so that we know that this is the system, how it works, but still 80% of people say, yeah, it's not, how do I know? Those people will know it better, because otherwise...
And then I think you run into an interesting problem, is that there will be two groups of people that will speak out. One will be the group of experts that will actually have an opinion and think that it's valid enough to say something, but perhaps an even larger group, and the group that will say something negative, which means that will be focused on more, will be people with a little bit of knowledge that think they know it all.
Yeah.
And those are the people that you want to look out for the most. They will shout the loudest, and they will get what they want, because they will speak from a negative light. And as human beings, we're hardwired to listen more to something negative than to something positive, because it's like I can reduce it down to you, because Jordan Peterson explained it to me once as well. I think it's a really brilliant comparison. If you think about it in a survival context, there is no limit to happiness, right? There is no being so happy that you can just be good and free and stuff forever. But you can be so sad that you just die, right? The highest happiness will be to have children, but there will be sadness again, because you'll need to take care of your kids and disease, etc., etc., etc. So we need to be constantly on the lookout for things that can be dangerous and harmful to us. But there is quite a limit to how happy you can be. So it makes sense for us to pay attention to what is dangerous to us first, because that's just how you survive. And for the longest time as biological beings, that was what we had to do. So yeah.
No, I agree, but I'm thinking about why you should then always be focused more on the negative side. Yeah, because the potential of losses is higher than the gains of wins. No, I get it, but
I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying that's how we're hardwired.
No, I get it. No, and that is indeed interesting, because that is also what you see on at least in the comments of social media, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That the most liked comments are most of the time kind of negative.
Exactly, and that's also why people that will have 99 positive comments and one negative one will start obsessing over the negative comment and try to listen, say it, and think, oh, okay, maybe there's something there, I should change that, instead of listening to the 99 people that like what you do.
Yeah.
Which is a very dangerous thing, especially since we now live in a society where indeed everybody gets to have a voice, and where a tiny minority of people can have huge impacts and influences. And I think that is partially what is happening to the Jordan Peterson thing of him potentially losing his clinical practice license. I mean, he's not actively practicing anymore. However, he holds it in high regard, and I think for it to be taken away from him, to never be able to legally practice it again, would be a waste, a real waste, and a shame. And I don't think the whole of society would want that for him, but I think there's a tiny group that is obsessed with his demise, that is putting in effort and time and resources into trying to make that a reality. And it's a minority, but it's a very, very vocal minority, which is again the point that I tried to make earlier, which is a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. These people think they know Jordan Peterson, they think that he's a bigot, they think that he's a racist, they think that he's transphobic. This is a man we gotta take down, because he's a threat to society, and they will do whatever they can to rip him apart without realizing all the value that there is to him, which is such a shame. But luckily he's fighting it tooth and nail, which I'm very happy that he's doing. I doubt it will become a reality, but it does scare me.
No, of course, and I can completely follow that. But the thing, what is on my mind is just that, or what's on my mind is just that I think that sometimes, I sometimes feel like, of course, you have there is a small group who's very vocal. I agree, and that is with Twitter reactions, with policies in a country, with anything, right? Mm-hmm. That is always the case. But what I find super interesting is that we can not see that we are inconsistent on the most fundamental level. Mm. I mean, how come that we agree that there are people that are saying we do this together as a society, but then don't want to listen to the opinion of other people? Mm. I mean, there you go. I for myself made a decision, and I know that, okay, in a democracy you have to listen to everybody. I don't think that is super smart to do, and therefore I would say, okay, then I would go for an authoritarian regime. Because I know that is the choice that you make. But people are saying, yeah, I want to have a democracy where we only listen to the smart people. Yeah, I mean, that is so inherently stupid. And there is no one having a discussion on that level and say, hey, it doesn't really matter what your conclusion is, your assumptions are false.
Yeah.
And so it is your results, it is...
Indeed, and this is almost like, I think, what you were referring to Plato and Socrates for, because that discussion of what government should look like doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly.
It's not practiced anymore. All we see is the government that is now, with the rules that we set up now, and how it's going to be, but not, is this the best system, is it working, and what are the problems with it?
Yeah, and that you can see in the fact that people are only saying anytime, and no one likes paying taxes, but paying taxes is for lots of people even worse than I mean, yeah, you name it, which is super weird, because you should be grateful that you can pay, that you can improve your society. The fact that we as a collective don't want to pay taxes, don't want to fund our public services, shows us that we don't care about each other. So
now, I think there's a lot of mistrust for one another.
Yeah, okay, but you have to improve that. You have to make a distinction. Either you go and say, we are a team, we are a collective, we are doing this together, or you are saying sort of an anarchy, strongest will survive. And that is a clear distinction that you have to make. Here in the Netherlands we have said, therefore you have a lot of, and 50% plus of government spending is going to social things, that we say, no, we will take care of the weakest. And the strongest shoulders will bear the heavy weight.
Burden,
yeah. And that is a fundamental decision that you make. Then if you do that, let's take the Netherlands, then you should have people that are proud to pay. Because if you don't have that, and I think that trend is there increasingly, then there will become a turning point in which the people that are contributing the most will say, I don't find true value in where you're putting my resources to. And so I will go to another country, I will leave. And the moment that happens, the moment you notice that, you're too late, because when you change your policies, that will always take some time, and when those changes are being felt by people, they are already gone.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree. I think part of the problem is indeed the transparency point that we've brought up once before, in which I think the people that would have to pay the most taxes and would have to take care of the poor, even indirectly so, or the less fortunate, don't know where their money is going to, and feel it's not being used wisely in a sense. And I think there's something to say for that as well. And I also think it's especially felt in larger cities like the capital, where people walk by each other without knowing each other or basically acknowledging each other, because we have become, in a sense, so big and so concentrated that we don't know each other, and to get to know everybody would almost be impossible. So we've, or at least partly, adopted the mentality that I will just not bug you as much as possible, and hopefully you do the same to me, instead of I want to make the best for everybody involved. And I think it's one of the things that Jordan Peterson also really preaches, and this is also why, because it really ties into what you were saying, and something I strongly believe as well, is that we as a society need to realize that the meaning in our lives, the idea that we are all connected and we need to make the best for each other, also is found in responsibility, in the sense that we need to be responsible for ourselves and the role we play in society. We need to be responsible for everybody else's actions as well, in the sense that you are every human that has ever lived and will ever come to be. It's all part of you.
Yeah.
All the worst things and all the best things in everywhere are done by humans, and you are a human.
Yeah.
So to disassociate yourself, which we have almost done in a sense, to disassociate yourself from other people, from society, is one of the most foolish things you could ever do. And it's something that's has become a very big trend. And I can to a degree I can say understandably so, because I've also been tempted by that idea to just say, fuck it doesn't matter. Life is meaningless in a sense, in that we're just on a floating rock spinning through space, and whatever. It's not going to be a big
Hopefully
thing.
Musk will launch a rocket.
Exactly. Maybe we can have a fresh start somewhere else and do it better.
Yeah.
I kind of be tempted by that idea, and I think it's that nihilism is running rampant, but it's taking away from the power that we as a society to have to make everything better. And people think that we can say that a heaven we might not be able to create, right? The ideal world, but we can definitely make it better. And if we all strive to make ourselves and the place around us a little bit better, I can guarantee you that we can make the world a lot of better place, 100%. And when we get to convince more people to be on that same page, I think we will as a society thrive, and we will take back power into where it's been lost, and we can fight corruption individually. But if everybody fights corruption individually, we will take it apart on the global scale.
Yeah, but I agree. But I think closely related to achieving that is just knowing who you are. And I think, I think we already discussed that once, in which we said there is a sort of an identity crisis. And I think that holds true. And now we are talking about different subjects, and you can see how it is related to one another. And because identity crisis means factually that you don't really know who you are, what you want. And opposite of that is knowing what you want. And I think knowing what you want means that you can contribute a lot more, can be of value a lot more. Sorry, I heard a very strange noise, but I don't know what it was. It sounded like a gas leak. Sorry, so that I thought that was worth listening to. No, so it's just that I think the point you just made, like trying to fight corruption is great, but to do that, and when you say that there is a thing in my mind that then I see a lot of people saying, hey, how is it possible, corruption? But then if I would put them in a chamber and I would say, this is a few millions public funds, you can spend that, go give that via the right door to the people who have voted for you, or you can choose to take the left door, and then you are on a private plane to your favorite destiny. Which one do you choose? I think a lot of people, and more importantly, the majority of the people that are against corruption will themselves be corrupt when they are in this place. And that is the thing that, nice that you find corruption, but only if you know for yourself and are sure, and so you've tested yourself that when you were put in those positions, you wouldn't do the same. And otherwise, you are just that child that is mad that the other child has a sweeter
toy car.
Candy. Better. I was searching for the sweetener. No, it's candy. Right? So then you're more, then you are just jealous.
Yeah, exactly. I think there is quite a lot of jealousy. I think a lot of that.
No, but the fact that you are jealous means that you do not know who you are.
Yeah.
And is a lack of it means that there is a lot to discover. Because jealousy is in essence, if you're truly happy, you cannot be jealous.
I agree with that.
And that is because you know why you are jealous. And probably if you are jealous, you are just almost jealous on the fact that someone else has something or someone that you don't. And probably that you think you will never get. And it is your perception about yourself that you are mad about. And not that what you see in another. And so jealousy is always stemming from some sort of, I believe, a discontent with yourself.
Yeah. I think it was beautifully spoken. I think it would be a shame for me to add anything to that, really.
You make me blush. Let's go.
Okay, I had a question.
I like that.
I'll just... so the question that I had for you is if you could ever see Jordan Peterson as a political leader, since we were already talking about politics a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I think he would be a great political leader.
Yeah? Do you think he could be a president?
Yeah, I think he could, because he sounds extreme, but his words are harsher than his behavior. So ultimately, he would take of more people care than what he said he would. I think, at least. And what I think would be great is to have a parliament in which we have Donald Trump with GP, with a Nelson Mandela. I mean, that would be great. With an Elon Musk, I think then you have something amazing.
Oh.
No, but I mean, but that is again the fact that the people you vote on are truly a representation of what you want, what you truly want.
No, I hear you. The reason that I got a chuckle, because it's a good thing, because you want extremist views of very illiterate people who can say a lot about their point of view.
Yeah, not that I'm saying that Trump is literate, but sure.
Gotcha. Good distinction.
Yeah.
The reason that I chuckled is because I came across a video and it was using deep AI to mimic the voices, and there happened to be 4 people of which there is a lot of content available. Elon Musk, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, and Donald Trump. These 4 were in like a Minecraft world, and they were like working together on a multiplayer server, talking to each other. Oh, sorry, the Joker instead of Donald Trump. It doesn't really matter, but because I want to do the video justice, because it was really funny. And it kind of goes to show they took their different personalities and like put them together in this isolated little context, and it shows that their extreme views like bounce against each other in a way that would be really entertaining. First of all, well, I think some political discussion that's entertaining would be astonishingly nice to have, and secondly, it was interesting and productive in a sense, because if you have the most extreme of ideas clash, that is when you come to real revelations, and that is valuable. So I agree with your standpoint, indeed, that we indeed need extreme people to talk, or people on extreme sides of the spectrum to debate, because that is how we will come to real solutions.
Yeah, and the fun thing is that instead of having moderate politicians where you then say, I'm not agreeing with either of one, but I have to choose, so I'm choosing the one that is not the furthest away, which is that shows you, I think, the mentality. Then instead choosing that the one that is the closest by or nearest by, right? So let me rephrase what I'm trying to say, because I made a little mistake. It's not really consistent. So if you have, you were talking about the fact that if you have extreme politicians, that ultimately would be better. And I agree. I thought to give another almost a sort of an intuition why that is true. I think what we could all understand is that when you now have two moderate politicians that that have their way of doing business, and you will choose the one that is not the furthest away that I just said, but instead of saying what is the closest by, which would be a lot of a different mentality, that you will see that people say, okay, I'm really searching for a sort of an I cannot put it in the words in a great manner, but what I'm trying to say is that ultimately you then are always discontent. It doesn't matter what the politician is saying, because you will always have a feeling, okay, that is not for 100% that I want, and you will never have that. But if you don't have it for 80, 70 or 60%, you can come to a point in which you think, is it even worth voting? And I think that is something you see even beyond geographies. That is something that's happening in America, but also here in the Netherlands, and which is an exception because we never had that. And we now, the past 10 years, have it, because you see that a lot of people, and an increasingly amount of people, are saying it really doesn't matter what I vote. It really doesn't. And that is the comparison, an extreme politician, then you will see that almost you will not be satisfied by the things either one is saying, but now you are not asking, can you go a little bit extreme, but you are asking, can you go a little bit moderate? And what is easier to do? To go even more extreme or to go more moderate? And so when you can let your people vote on at least extreme cases, then you can find common ground in which most of the people will be satisfied. But if you have only moderate, you have to make sure that that is indeed a perfect representation, and otherwise you can never improve.
Indeed, it's a lot harder. It's a lot easier to pick a gray from the blackest black and the whitest white, instead of picking from 50 different shades of gray.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like my little joke.
Yeah. No, indeed. So that's that.
Okay.
Took me too long, but sure.
No, great.
So I see that you have some quotes for us.
I do have some quotes.
Which is your favorite?
Yeah, we have already removed one out of precaution, so that was my favorite. No,
okay.
No, these are some things that are things that Jordan Peterson has said that we got from an article, and that we thought we would be interesting to at least discuss in a little bit of detail. The first one is, quote, "The idea that women were oppressed throughout history is an appalling theory," end quote. Now, we have talked about this a few times now, but I think it is really an interesting question of whether women have been oppressed throughout history. I think the case that women have been is because really we live in a society now where, especially if you look at the hyper successful percentage of people, that they are predominantly male. I think that is really where it stems from, right? The richest of the richest, the most powerful of the powerful people at the top of the world right now are men, and that is why we think we live in a society that benefits men. And I can get behind it, because at face value I would have probably said something similar or thought of it as well, because that is the way it initially looks. But when you look more into it, it is also because men tend to work more hours, work more dangerous jobs, work in fields that are more risky, work longer hours, will choose to spend to take time away from their family to spend at work, whereas women will won't do that, or would rather choose for a family life instead of a career life. Would work less hours to focus on a hobby or something else, would go into a less competitive field, but something that is more fitting of a nurturing field. And these are just fields that are paid less because they require less work or a less stressful environment. And these are just a lot of factors that aren't taken into account when thinking, okay, men have it better. Face value, there's a wage gap, men make more money, but that wage gap has also been debunked because of things like this. Is that for the same job, for the same amount of work, women and men make the same. In fact, women at a younger age even make a little bit more than men, and because they are better at things like customer service and working as a cashier or a waitress, they will get more tips and stuff. So the wage gap idea, I get it in a certain sense, but really you need to look further, is what I've learned. Because I was also quick to accept it, but really it's, I'm not knowledgeable enough to say it's appalling yet, but I am knowledgeable enough to say that this is definitely not that simple.
So you don't agree that it's an appalling theory?
I wouldn't say appalling necessarily, but I would say inaccurate.
Oh no, okay, but then no, I do think that it's an appalling theory. Yeah, because I agree with what you were saying, and especially the beginning, like where it maybe stems from or so. But ultimately, I mean, the fact, and that is a statement, the idea that women were oppressed throughout history is an appalling theory, and indeed, because it is not an inaccurate theory. No, it's an appalling theory because that. The implication of that means that you can say you as a woman are almost subjective to the man, right? You are you should live for the man. It's almost like that. That is the implication of that, and that would be appalling theory indeed, because that would then justify or explain why men are on average are like more powerful due to the position, due to the money, whatever. And I do think that's not true, and we have indeed discussed it at an earlier stage, but I would say that indeed for men they were sometimes doing and working the hard jobs, but the women were ultimately the strategic partner. And like the man was ultimately earning the money, making sure that there was like bread on the table, and then working, bread on the table, working. So it makes you as a woman, when the man is working and you are all day at home, of course you could say that to some extent you are oppressed, but you as a woman could quite easily leave, because there are more people willing to take care of you than that there are women that want to be taken care of, in a sense. So I would just say that oppressed maybe in a sense of financially, but due to their strategic position, they could they could utilize their power in so many more ways than just earning bread. And that is taking care of your child. That is being pregnant with your child. And then you come at the position that any leader from the Roman Empire or even further ago had always even a stronger woman behind him. And when there was war, even the king had to go and to show his face, while his wife was at home making sure the city was not being burned down.
And the children were safe.
So what happens is that any anytime I think the man made sure that the woman was safe, and if the man was in a super powerful position, and you could say relatively the woman would be oppressed by that man, sure, but that is one man. But then she would be the queen of a whole city, and then you are the queen, aka the boss of 10,000 men, and so now a woman is oppressing men. So it depends relatively on where you stand. But
of course, and I think.
But we would never put a woman in a dangerous position. We as men would always make sure that how powerful it is, that it is safe and powerful. And therefore, when a man can die in so many things, while a woman will only die because she is poisoned. And that is any story with a woman, that she was poisoned or she was poisoning people.
Yeah, and if a woman died, you can if a woman or child dies, you can be sure that there have been 10 men that died before that.
Yeah.
Or hundreds. I think really one phrase that just came to mind is women and children first, right? If a boat is sinking, our inherent thought is the people that deserve it more, that should be the first to be rescued, are women and children, because biologically they are physically weaker, and in a sense we value their life more. I think women also are born with an inherent beauty in a sense, in that if a man is stripped from everything, he will be left with nothing, but if a woman is stripped of anything, she will at least have her beauty, and I truly believe that to a degree. Of course, there is varying depths of beauty, and it is sometimes only skin deep, but it does show that there is some inherent things that women have that men do not have, which are overlooked. And I think that idea that indeed our entire society is based on the idea that women have it worse, and that it's been like that for hundreds or thousands of years, is also, you're right, it is appalling. But it's the reason why I wouldn't so quickly say appalling, or at least wouldn't say that first, is because I do believe that I understand the original frustration and the feeling that they are wrong, because I have also, by the system, by the government, by the world I live in, felt like I've been wronged in a sense, in a way that I don't mean to say everything should have been handed to me, but it felt like I struggled unnecessarily at parts, and I think that feeling is a feeling that a lot of people experience. But women can attribute it to the patriarchy, to men, and men doing better. And having somebody to cast the blame makes it easier to not have to look inward and face your own inefficiencies and your own things that you are lacking in. Which perhaps also explains why a fair bit of women, especially beautiful women, haven't done that at a later age in their life, because they haven't been forced to, whereas men will be forced to.
Yeah. No, and I agree. I think I just wanted to add, but I'm thinking that I'm maybe repeating a part of what you were saying, but that is the only thing that really not came to mind. Is just that a woman could, it sounds a little bit weird, but can be penetrated a couple of times a night, right? So while a man, let's make it easier. A woman ultimately, I think, has a power to make sure that if she wants a child, then having let's just do this. If you have a man and a woman, and they both are equally in the sense that they are both to the same level eager or so to get a child. Then you know for sure that the woman will have earlier a child than the man, and I think that is a power play.
A power position.
It's a power play and a power position. It's both. So that you know ultimately who made you pregnant, most likely, or who's sure not to, right? You as a woman always have more information in that sense than I as a man do. We both don't know if we have sex, and I will make you pregnant.
No, I think it's fair to say that women are usually the ones that control access to sex.
Actually, and that is what I'm trying to say. And then you can say, okay, but let's say that they are both entrepreneurs, right? Then they can fix it to the same degree. Yeah, but for the man, if I make a woman pregnant, I have to take care of her or I have to leave.
Mm.
And that is not a power position or so.
No.
While a woman can make sure that if you have made her pregnant, that you will take responsibility, and if you don't, then you will lose your whole social life.
Yeah.
And that is the power play. Women have the power over your social lives, while men are just working, so we know each other from working, in a working environment. And then maybe you don't like each other, maybe you have some competition, some hate, fine. But ultimately you come in your safe space, and your safe space is guarded by a woman. Now, if that woman is going to fight with you, then you can, if you lose your safe space, then you only have your work left. And that safe space is more important than having your work. So if you would just say safe space at home and work, and safe space is more important than work, yeah, the man is guarding work, woman is guarding the safe place at home, so then you know that the woman has power play. And I think that is subtle, really subtle, but it is there.
Yeah, I haven't thought about it like that, but when you lay it out like that, I'm inclined to agree.
That is great.
So.
I think that's then also a great an ending.
Yeah, great note to end on.
Great note to end on. Jesus Christ, yeah.
Alright, well, I hope you weren't too bothered by our quick vacation, you could say. Our multiple corrupted files. If I am to believe it and you're listening, then hooray, we have managed to subvert the problem. So there will be a podcast, I think, weekly from now on, and we will do our best to make some quality content for you guys, and are ready and excited to get back into it. So yeah, I hope we really hope you enjoyed this episode. Yeah, if you have anything to tell us, I will make a prompt in the Spotify with a specific question. But if you want to just tell us anything, please feel free to do so. We are always trying to learn. You can also follow us on socials. Yeah, thank you for listening. This has been Tom.
I'm Jala.
And hope to see you next time.
Bye.